There we go. Okay. All right, we got a lot more people in this one, and I have about a minute for this. Okay. Like everyone's answered on that. Okay. Looks like most people who did the exercises thought they were great, maybe easy, and some of you didn't do it. That's okay. We'll try to do that for next time. And anyway, let's get started with the session. So, welcome to session 2 of Shieldlic Ignite. So something that we had a lot of questions on in the last session was the two groups, Bugbusters and Pythonic Lava. So we did have this on the intake form where you would select either no coding experience or some coding background. But we have another link here for you to be able to select your group if you want to be in a different group. And the current assignments for the groups are currently on Shieldlic Ignite leaderboard, which can pull up as well. So that has been updated. Does anyone have any questions about what group they're in or what exercises they should be doing? If not, we can move on. Okay, I'll continue with that then. So, session overview for what we're going to be going over this session. We're going to be doing some review. Last session, we're going to be learning about binding variables. We're going to be learning about updating variables with themselves. We're going to be learning about variable scope. And we're going to be learning about some bonus features of processing. So let's get started. So something to recall from last session, you can share your code by creating a link. And I also finally realized what was wrong with my demonstration. So I'll go over to Trinket right now. Turns out if you're running an ad blocker on your computer, you will not be able to share a link. It's a weird quirk with Trinket, so that was what was going wrong when I was doing it before. So if you're running an ad blocker, make sure to disable it for Trinket, and then it should work just fine. And you should be able to get the link for your code and then copy paste it into the submission form. Good. Okay, onward. So last session, we learned about setup and draw. These are two different functions. Setup will be run just once, and draw will be run multiple times on repeat. What did it mean by the final project when submitting submission form? That is the final project that you will do at the end of the course. You do not need to submit that for every submission. Usually it'll just be exercise 1 and exercise 2. And then for the final project, it has a different submission on the form for that. Okay. And just a quick aside, something we had a lot of questions on last session was what exactly a function is. So I'm just going to go into a quick aside for that. So quick aside, what is a function anyway? A function is a block of code that can be called to perform a particular task. Some functions in Python are predefined, either in the Python standard library or in one of your imported libraries, such as processing. print, for example, is in the standard Python library, whereas stuff like rect or ellipse or run or any of those functions that are predefined are part of the processing library. Other functions might be defined by you, the programmer. We can define new functions in Python by using the def keyword, which is what we're doing when we write def setup and def draw. The setup and draw are just two examples of user-defined functions we have used in these sessions already, but we will learn to define many more functions in this course. So, yes. Thank you, Rohit. And back to our regularly scheduled program, that's a bit more about what a function is. So we're going to carry on and learn more about variables. So we can use operators on variables, just like we do with numbers. So for example, here, we can combine A and B, add them together to print 50. We can multiply them together. We can subtract them, store that value in a new variable, which we can then print. We can do math with variables. That's a thing you can do. But why do we use variables? So a good rule of thumb, if you're not sure if you should be using a variable, is if it is something you need to keep track of in your code, you should make it a variable. So you might want to keep track of a value when you're changing them a lot or using it a lot. So some examples of some variables you might use in like a video game are maybe player's health, player's position, their score, enemy spawn rate, enemy strength, many, many more things. Speed is an important one that we're probably going to go over. And the variable naming convention in Python, you got to follow these rules. You can't name it anything, but you can name it most things. So a variable should not include spaces. It has to be no spaces. First character must be one of the letters A through Z. It can be uppercase or lowercase, and it can also be an underscore character. So you can include underscores in your variable names. The variable also cannot be one of Python's keywords, like print, import, def, global. You can't use any of those because those already mean something else in Python. And the last thing, Python is case sensitive. So just be careful of that when you're naming your variables, that you don't accidentally name one of them with an uppercase letter and one of them with a lowercase letter, because Python will recognize those as different variables. Okay, now onto our first quick question. So using mouse X, arithmetic operators, and ellipse, how would you make the size of the circle proportional to how far left or right the mouse is on the screen? Let me just pull this up. Sorry, we're a bit slower with the quick questions than usual. Janine could not be here today, so I am doing a lot of stuff that I do not normally do. At this. Okay. Here's your question. Wait for everyone to answer. Okay, it looks like time's just about up. Okay, everyone's got their answers. So go over to responses. Okay, yeah, good job. Looks like most of you got it correct. So we should have our position set to mouse X and F and mouse Y so that the circle will just follow our cursor around. And since we want to have the size of the circle proportional to how far left or right, that's going to be dependent on our mouse X variable. So all of you who got that one right, great job. Okay, back to the presentation. Okay, now we're going to learn about the assignment operator. The equal symbol in Python is called the assignment operator. So how this works is the left-hand side is set to whatever the right-hand side is, not vice versa. So if you were to write something like 170 equals height, that would not change the value of height. We have to have height on the left, and then we're storing the value 170 in height. So, sorry, I lost it. Okay. So we can also update a variable with itself, like we do here. So if we wanted to have height be equal to itself plus 5, we would do it like this. And we can also overwrite the current content of a variable by changing its value. So we can either update it itself like this or update it with a new value. And some shorthand for updating a variable would be x plus equals 5 means the same thing as x equals x plus 5. And same thing with x minus equals 12. That's just a slightly easier way to update a variable with itself that doesn't involve typing out x twice. It's a bit of shorthand for lazy programmers. Yeah, Josiah, you got it. Okay, so now onto our first exercise of the session. We're going to be considering the following code, drawing two squares with the same x variable. You can copy this straight off the slides. And what we're going to be doing with this code is making a diagonal square pattern as pictured. So we got to think here, how could we change the x and y values to change the location of each square so that they line up exactly in a diagonal? And we're going to look at what the relationship is between the two adjacent squares coordinates. So I'm going to send you all into breakout rooms to work on this. First, I'm going to make sure our breakout rooms are set up properly. Just give me a second for this. Because once again, Janine is not here, so I have to set up the breakout rooms. Oh, that's okay if you're having technical issues. I am currently also having technical issues setting up the breakout rooms. So just be patient. I'll have them set up in a couple seconds. And also for any of Levish's mentees, he is not here today. So he'll be assigned to a different breakout room. How do we copy the code? The code is on the slides. You can view the slides in the Schulich Ignite website. So schulicignite.com. You go to sessions and you go to Ignite Beginner. Or just follow that link Tatiana just sent in the chat. What did you miss? Not much. We're just going over variables. I'm just setting up the breakout rooms. Okay, looks like we have a couple mentees missing, so I will just assign the rest of you into other rooms. Okay, sorry for the wait. Breakout rooms should be good to go. So I will give you around, say, since that took a bit longer, about 8 minutes for this exercise. We'll be back at around 12:35. Okay.
this, but you can go through the slides and kind of refresh yourself.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. And then any questions you have outside of the sessions, you can just go ahead and ask in the Discord.
Hey, how we all doing? Good, glad to hear it.
Yep.
Just a reminder to take attendance for everyone because I put a couple mentees in your group that aren't
Yeah.
usually
Yeah,
in this
that's what I'm
group
doing
because
right
we're
now.
missing a couple mentors today.
Yeah, got it.
All right, just making sure we're all good.
Mm.
Copied from the slides should have issue. But if you're able to share your screen, that'd be great. That's wrong. Are you using processing? Because we're not doing or are you, like Trinket on. Did you import processing?
Oh, share screen is disabled? All right, I can fix that. Okay. Sorry about that. It should be enabled so that everyone can share the screen now.
Okay.
Okay, good. There you go.
Okay, so your issue here is you do need to import processing.
Hey, how's everything going?
We're doing good.
Yeah. All right, one thing I just realized in one of the other rooms is that I forgot to enable screen sharing for everyone, but I have enabled it now. So
Okay,
if any
sounds
of you
good.
need to share your screen, you can. I'm just popping in all the breakout rooms to make sure everyone's doing okay with the exercise. All right.
Okay.
Hi, how are y'all doing?
Good. I think it's recording to say no. Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
I couldn't share my screen. Oh, now I can.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot to enable that initially, but it is enabled now. So if you need to
Oh,
share your
yeah.
screen, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, no worries. I was just gonna double check that, but yeah, all good. I think they're just going at it. So
Okay, good.
yeah, so I guess.
Sorry, I was muted. How is it going in this room?
Yeah, it's going well. So I'm here to answer questions. I think people
Sorry,
here
what
are
was that?
doing it. I'm here to answer the questions, and I think guys here are doing the exercises. So far, there wasn't any question.
Okay,
Okay.
all right. All right. So we have everyone about a minute to rejoin the main room. Quickly go over the solution to that exercise, and we will carry on with the session. Okay, it looks like we got everyone back in the main room. I will quickly go over one possible solution for that exercise. So as you can see here, we have the code from the slides that draws our first square in the bottom left corner. And so instead of having it move another square into the bottom right corner, we want to have our squares in a diagonal line. And how we can do that is just by modifying our x and y variables. So if our dimensions of the square are 100 and 100, we just need to modify x plus 100, move it to the right, modify y minus 100 to move it up. And then we just do that 4 times, have all our squares in a diagonal line. Now, if you wanted to get really fancy with this, since this is just the same code 4 times, we could do this in a loop, but we haven't learned about loops yet. So this is going to be our simple solution for now. But later, we might be able to just put this in a loop so that we don't have to rewrite the same code 4 times to do the same thing. Anyway, that's the solution for that exercise. So moving on, we're going to learn about variable scope. The variable scope says how long the variables can last for and which parts of the code can see them. So if variables are started inside a function, they don't exist out of that function. So if you define a variable in setup, you can only use that variable in setup. It does not exist anywhere else. But you can define variables that exist outside all functions. These are called global variables. We can define them outside of a function and use them within any of our functions using the global keyword. So a little analogy for variable scope is how different nations might have different laws. So for example, maybe Canada has a law that says you must be 18 to drink and purchase alcohol. The USA might have a law that says you must be 21 to drink and purchase alcohol. But you might also have global laws, like according to the United Nations, no slavery, slavery is bad, that law applies everywhere. Okay, maybe little example to help. Okay, so here's an example of limited scope. So if you were to define a variable within setup, so like x here, for example, it will only exist inside setup. So if we tried to use x here in draw doesn't know what x is because it only exists in setup, because that is where we defined it. And so to solve this, we can create global variables. So how we do this is if we define x outside of our functions, we can then use it inside either of our functions by using the global keyword. So if we say global x, that means it's referring to the x that we defined outside of that function, and it'll tell us which x that we're using. So another global example, we can create x as a global variable outside of setup and draw. And then if we wanted to use x in draw, we say that we're referring to global x, which gives us access to this x over here. And then we can modify x within the draw function and use it like a normal variable. So now on to our next quick question. So take a look at the following code and tell me, would it work as expected and make the circle move to the right? Pop over to TopHat. Or the next question. You should have all your answers. You can go back to the function in question. Tell me if this would work or not, and why or why not.
And then talk about is it
Okay, a few more seconds. Get your answers in. Okay, let's take a look at these responses. Okay. So it looks like a couple of you got it right. The correct answer would be no. The variable x will be redeclared in each iteration of draw, and the circle will not move. Because we go back to this code. Remember, draw will be repeated forever. And since we defined x in draw, each time we repeat draw, it will define a new x. So that means every time we go through draw, we'll define x as 10 and then add 1 to x. So we'll never actually get any bigger. The only way we could make this get bigger is if we were to define x as a global variable and then increment that. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. Okay, using variables to change other variables. Variables can change and usually do. That's why we call them variables. So for example, in two variables, we can store the player's x position and the player's speed, and then we can change the speed or we can change the player's position according to the speed variable. Here's a quick example of that. So if we have a variable for speed, that lets us modify our program by changing the x position of an object. So for example, if we set the speed to 3 and increase x by speed each time, then it's going to be increasing by 3 each time. So it's going to move at a speed of 3. And we can modify speed to say maybe be 5, and then it'll move a bit faster. It'll be increasing by more each time we loop through the program. Here's a little bonus that we might use for creating games later, adding gravity to our games. So in real life, the longer a ball falls or any object falls, the faster it'll fall. The way we can replicate this in our program is by increasing the speed over time. So we keep increasing our y position by speed, and then we keep increasing our speed by 1. So then the first time we loop through our program, it'll go down by 2, then it'll go down by 3, then it'll go down by 4, and it'll keep falling faster and keep kind of gaining momentum. Okay, and now on to exercise 2. So in this exercise, we're going to write a program to draw a circle which moves diagonally down to the bottom right until it goes out of the window. So just worry about doing that first. And if you get that done, then you can do a little bonus and make the circle gradually change from red to blue. So I'm going to send you into breakout rooms to work on this exercise. This one will be about 15 minutes. So let me open the breakout rooms. Hey, how's it going?
I think we're doing good.
Okay. I'll just be going through all the breakout rooms again to answer any questions. But if you're all good here, then I'll move on to the next one.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Hello.
Hello.
How's everything going on the exercise? Okay.
Nothing,
Questions?
no, yeah, no issues yet, I don't think.
All right. Cool. I'll just keep cycling through the breakout rooms then.
Putting the numbers in here instead. So you can see one of them that has the same thing. But in order for it to move, remember that the draw function will loop over and over again. So if we want it to move, then we need to be adding or subtracting from each of these coordinates, right? So if we want it to move from the top left corner to the bottom right corner, are we adding or subtracting from x, and are we adding or subtracting from y? Remember that the coordinate system in this is different, right? So 0, 0 is the top left, and then our size of 500, 500 is the bottom right. So are we going to be adding or subtracting from x, and then adding or subtracting from y? Your answer in the chat. Even if you don't know this, don't look at just. Yeah, so it's correct. We want to add to x because we want it to move to the right. And then, yeah, subtract from, or in this case, are we subtracting from y? Because I believe we're actually adding to as well, right? Because let's say, let's think respond x, then we can see it's moving from a new circle that's closer to where we want it to be bottom, right? So what we want to do is we actually, instead of putting the variables inside draw, we want to stick them outside. So why do we want to do that? Why don't we just use the variables inside draw? Does anybody know why? It was kind of explained in the lecture. But essentially, if you put them in here, like so what I can try to do is do 100, 100, and then let's say x is equal to x plus 50, right? So moving to the right, then y is equal to y plus 50. So we get moving it downwards. What happens is every time I repeat draw, x and y are set to 100 again, and then you add 50 to each. So then they're just set at 150 and 150. So instead, you want to actually declare x and y, so these variables, outside of draw, so that they aren't set to 100 every single time. So we'll stick those into, we want to stick them out here, right, so that they're global variables. But then there's something we need to add in here in order to access them. What do we need to add in order to access global variables? So we need to put something in the function. Feel free to look at the slides again if you don't remember. But there's a line of code that we need to add from access x and y inside functions. So what happens if I try to run this? It's not going to work because it says local variable x reference report assignment. So it doesn't know where to get x from. If you want to take a look back in the slides and see how we would access a global variable, Anybody have any ideas?
Okay, looks like you're all doing okay so far, so I'm gonna move on to the next room.
For sure.
Oh,
Hey, how's it going?
good. I'm not sure if I'm sharing or not. Yeah, they're just working through it right now. I got
Yeah.
one more person needed to join the Discord, so we are just like the private.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, we're just
Good. I'm glad you got that sorted out.
yeah.
Has anyone got a circle yet? Okay, well, I have a couple more minutes for this and then I'll close the breakout rooms. So to get finished up on that.
Sure. Thank you.
0 and 0. Hello, Jamie.
Hi, how's it going? Any
Hi.
questions
Yeah,
or concerns about the exercise so far?
Yeah, I was answering the question in the chat about global variables and
Oh,
how
okay.
to use them and stuff. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So, where was I? Okay, so you are defining x and y equal to 0 each time every frame. So in this case, you have
Okay. Give it a couple seconds to let everyone join back into the main room. Okay, I hope everyone got through most of that exercise. A few quick questions that you can answer in the chat. How did you update the position of the circle? It's starting in the top left. That's going to be 0, 0. So if you're going to move it to the bottom right, then you need to increase the x coordinate and increase the y coordinate as well. To move down, y needs to go up. Okay, and then if any of you got to the color of the circle, we started using red. How can we change the RGB values over time to get it to change from red to blue? Did anyone get to this part of the exercise? Okay. Yeah, so Phil, Josiah, your example is really good, just as long as you're not using X or Y as your positional variables, that would work perfect. Yours keeps making new circles and not updating the location. That might be because you need to put the ellipse in raw. Because, oh, actually, this is why. Each time we do draw, we're filling in the background. So that'll draw the background again over top of whatever has already been drawn. So if you don't do this, it will just keep creating new circles. Because if you loop draw over and over again, then it'll just create another ellipse on top of all the ellipses you've already created. But here's an example of what this exercise might look like if you're able to update both X position, Y position, and then update red and blue for the fill color. It'll just move across the screen like that. Anyway, that was a quick little exercise, and we're going to move on with the last little bit of slides. So here's some more features with processing that we might use later on. You can create text and you can create lines. So to write text, we need to define the text size, text alignment, and we create a string variable for the text, and then we define the X and Y position of the text box on the screen. And so if we want to make a text that says hello, put it here on the screen at those coordinates. That's how we would do it. We can also draw some lines. So lines, similar to rectangles or ellipses, we define the stroke color and use that using either RGB or grayscale. It'll just be black by default if you don't define stroke. And the line will have 2 points. So you'll define your starting X and Y coordinates and your ending X and Y coordinates. And then it'll just draw a line between those 2 points you define. Okay. And here's a little example of how we can combine drawing text with variables to have the word hello get larger and hover ominously across the screen. So if we wanted to update the X and Y variables, we could do that here. We could also update the font size. So it'll move diagonally across the screen and also get larger. That's something we can do with variables and something with text. And here's another use of variables with colors, which is kind of something we touched on in the previous exercise, but something we can do is make one shape fade from one color to another. So if we were to start fill at 0, green as a variable, and 0, and if we were to update green with 1 every time, it's going to start black and become slowly more green over time each time we look through the function. Okay, and just another thing about submitting exercises, here are the links for both Bugbusters and Pythonic Lava. Submissions for the end of session exercises are due a week after your sessions. So the exercises that we're going to go over at the end of today's session are going to be due in a week. So get them submitted sometime before then. And also the submission forms have been updated so that you can submit links now. So there's the links. You can use them. You can also find the links on the Schulich Ignite website. So go there or use these links in the slides. It's the same link. Yeah, that's all the content for today. So now we're going to use the rest of the session to have some time to work on our end of session exercises. So we got a couple exercises for Bugbusters. We have one where it's kind of similar to our other exercise where we're making our circles become blue and red as they move across the screen. And another one where we're making a circle that gets bigger and goes from green to black. I'll let you figure those out. And then a couple exercises for Pythonic Lava. This is one using kind of gravity as we discussed earlier. We're making a ball fall down and to the right. And then exercise 4 over here is making a circle that can follow your mouse and also have crosshairs around it that will move out from the circle. And these ones are just for fun. So have time in breakout rooms to work on the exercises. And I will get into breakout rooms now, from now until the end of the session. Just making
Hi
sure
there, JP.
everything's going okay. We're gonna wrap up the session in a bit, so we'll just come back to the main session and do our end of the session polls.
Yeah,
Let me know.
yeah. I think the other person has left,
Oh,
but Ishika is here. I think is trying to solve the exercises.
Oh, all
So
right.
far, we hadn't had any communications. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for sticking around, I guess.
Yeah. Okay.
right.
Okay. Thank you.
Here, so this is the. Hello.
Hey,
So
just
this.
going over Discord stuff.
Yeah, just if they need extra help. So yeah, this one's the chat, but
Okay.
this one we can always hop in a call. And this would just be like a voice chat. So you just click on that and then you're in a voice call and then I'll join in with you and that way I can help you more. So yeah.
Yes. Very good. Use the Discord. Discord is good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will just be going back to the main session in a couple minutes now to do the end of session polls. Just
Okay,
making sure
sure.
everything's okay on the exercises and whatnot.
Yeah, I think they're just working through it and then they tend to send me stuff after in the Discord.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hello, how's everything going? You're all muted.
I'm good. Oh, sorry. I think we're fine.
Okay. Yeah, I'll call everyone back to the main session in like 1 minute. We can do the end of session polls. Just making
Okay.
sure no problems on the exercises or anything.
Yeah, doesn't seem like any problems so far.
Okay, that's good. We'll give it about a minute for everyone else to join. I'll get the poll up. Okay, it looks like everyone's back. I'm just going to move on to our last questions so you can provide some feedback for this session. First one, how difficult did you find the content in this session? Was it difficult, too easy, Goldilocks difficulty? We'll just waiting on one more. Not a trick question. There's no wrong answers for this one. Okay, I'll just close early. Okay, looking like might have been a little difficult, mostly just right. Not very many people find this too easy. Good to know. And the last question, how was the pacing of the session? Too fast, too slow, too medium? Okay, let's say in 13. It might be one person having trouble. Okay. Okay, it looks like just right, maybe a little fast. Good to know. Okay. Thank you for your feedback. And with that, we've reached the end of our sessions. Make sure you submit your exercises by next week so you can get those points. Points are good. Anyway, I hope you all have a great Saturday. Mentors, can we stay behind for a quick debrief? And I'll end this recording.